And Joe, I got a question today for you. That's how do you handle this?
Okay.
Let's say that you have a small business, okay?
All right.
And you don't have a location, but you're running everything out of your vehicle.
Okay.
Let's say you're just a sandwich maker, whatever.
Sure.
You make some kind
I
of
like sandwiches.
Yeah.
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't like sandwiches? And makes the sandwiches, or maybe you're selling cosmetics out of your car or something like that.
Boy, you hit the nail on the head with me.
Yeah, I know. So, I mean, how does that work as far as insuring? I mean, is it different if you run a small business out of your vehicle?
Yeah, it's not only out of your vehicle, but we'll kind of kick that out also to your home as well. We run into a few clients or folks that'll call in from time to time, and they'll run a small business, say, out of their home. And, that can be done a lot of different ways. Preferably kind of from an insurance perspective, the best way to do it is to not run a business out of your house. Because what happens, especially if you're running a business where you're going to have clients coming in and out for services, whether
right.
it's, I don't know, they're coming over to make pottery, they're coming over to, make T-shirts, pick up T-shirts, a wide variety of different things. You need to keep kind of separation there, separation of home, separation of business. It's not as bad, for example, if you're running something where you don't get any clients that come to your house. We see a lot of this where, for example, you'll have maybe an engineer or an architect that runs like a consulting company, and he runs that out of his house, but there's nobody that comes to his house. He does some work there. Maybe he's got a computer and a desk and some drafting tools or something like that, some computer software. That's almost like an incidental type of a business that not really a huge liability exposure, meaning no one's going to be coming over, slip and falls, things like that. But when you introduce into it the idea that folks are going to come over, you're going to accept payment for services, whatever that business may be, that's where the waters get a little bit murky, and you want to try to keep that stuff separate, whether it's opening up a business and maybe getting a little small office downtown, getting a small little office space to do your business there, or if you've got the capability to, even if it was like a detached garage type of thing where you said, hey, I got a little small two-car detached garage that's separate from my house. I'm going to clean out the garage and I'm going to open up like an art studio, or I'm going to open up a little small, I don't know, we're going to make widgets. We'll just say widgets. We're going to make widgets out of that detached. That makes things a little bit easier because, again, it's separation from your home. A lot of this has to do with liability. It gets difficult from an insurance company's perspective, to determine, hey, where's the liability going to fall if, for example, I go over there, slip and fall. Is that covered under your homeowner's policy? Is that covered under your general liability policy? And there's just the list is very, very short, if non-existent, of companies that will insure you for that because the business is located in your home.
Well, I've been noticing a lot of folks are, they sell cosmetics and they'll advertise it on Facebook,
sure.
or they're having these essential oil classes and inviting everybody to come to their house and demonstrate and and all this kind of stuff. I was just wondering, do they need to consult their insurance agent before they start doing stuff like this? Because, like you say, something happens, they may not be covered.
Yeah, finding out after the fact is never a good idea. A lot of folks may kind of roll the dice on that and say, hey, what's the chances that something's going to happen? Folks, it only takes one. It only takes one incident to happen to kind of ruin you financially going forward, because playing ignorance is not acceptable in that situation, because what's going to happen is, if you don't have the proper coverage for that and somebody does slip and fall or has an issue at your house that you're held liable for, folks, that can ruin you to the tune of $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, maybe $500,000, $600,000, depending on what the injuries are. And you just don't want to have that kind of matzo ball exposure type thing hanging out there after you. It's really a good idea. I try to tell folks all the time, if it's something, and you and I have talked about this before, if you've got an idea of saying, hey, I want to start this. I want to, build widgets out of my, house or whatever. What do I need to do for that? Not only from a structuring standpoint, do I want to run it as an LLC? Do I want to run it as a DBA? But looking at it from an insurance perspective too, get it done ahead of time. There's going to be some fees. There's going to be some costs associated with that, but it's better to know that ahead of time and to help make that decision of, do I want to start this? Do I maybe want to hold off on this? How much is this going to cost me versus how much do I really anticipate I'm going to make maybe first year to help kind of cover some of those costs? It's things to think about, before you start versus trying to start the business, get it up and going, and then have somebody say, oh, hey, I need to see a copy of your insurance policy. And you're like, oh, I didn't know I needed that. What are you talking about? Never a good idea to do it after the fact. You kind of want to have some prep time built into that.
One of the reasons why I even brought this up is because I have a little business that I take care of.
I heard about that.
Yeah, and my
music or something, right?
Yes, and I buy my insurance from Bryan Insurance Agency.
Look at you.
Because of that, I was doing a wedding, and I was following a car who had a paper sign in the back window of the car saying, "Running slow, wedding cake aboard." And I was just kind of wondering about, if something did happen in a case like that, I mean, do the insurance companies look and go, hey, you're transporting da-da-da, or you're doing this or doing that, whatever. I just didn't know how those things worked out.
Yeah, difficult to say in a situation like that because every situation's different. I mean, it could have been a situation where, mom had made a wedding cake for her daughter and was transporting that. I'm not sure that that's really classified as a business. Now, if you're a cake decorator and that's what you do full time and you're using your own personal car to transport that, again, murky waters, slippery slope, as they like to say on King of Queens. The old boss used to say, hey, it's slippery slope, Doug. So, you really got to look at every situation. But like, for example, in your case, you use your vehicle, you use your trailer, you've got signage on your trailer, you've got tools that you use for your business for that. So you want to make sure that stuff's covered. Anytime you get into a situation with signage on vehicles, it always makes it fun because I was told years and years ago that when you put a sign on your vehicle that you're, for not for hire, but basically that you provide a service of some sort, you're almost like putting a magnet on your car for wanting folks to hit you, thinking that, oh, hey, that's a business. I can get some money out of them. And so just a good idea anytime, like you did before you started up your DJ show there, that, sit down with somebody and say, okay, this is what I'm thinking of doing. What do I need to be looking at? How do I need to set this up? What kind of insurance am I going to need? What are some possible exposures down the road? Hey, maybe I don't need to get everything right now. Maybe now I just need a general liability. And let's see how this thing goes. Maybe a year, 2 years down the road, I'm going to start acquiring some equipment. I'm going to maybe, who knows? Maybe you go out and get a new vehicle to kind of promote that business, and you got to look at doing like a commercial auto policy or, a policy that will cover your speakers and all the stuff that you carry with you. So, it can be baby steps. It can be all at one time, but being prepared is the better way to do it versus trying to find out after the fact.
So if you run a small business or if you are, selling sandwiches out of the trunk or whatever it is, probably a good idea to give you guys a call and say, look, this is what I got going on. This is what I'm doing. How am I going to be covered? So again, find out before this stuff happens.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Look, don't be afraid. Give us a call. We deal a lot with folks that'll call us up and say, hey, I don't have my auto and home with you guys, but I've got this small business or I'm thinking of starting this up. What do I need to do? And let us just kind of create something that's unique to you. That's what we do. That's what we specialize in. It's certainly nothing that there's not a one-size-fits-all type of a thing. Let us customize something, show you the exposures, and at the end of the day, let's just make sure you're covered the way you need to be.
So get it done at Bryan Insurance. You can call them at 549-2525, second floor of the Sierra Bank building, and they're going to help you out. So make sure you go by and see them. Joe, appreciate your time, my friend.
Hey, thank you, Rick.
Joe Swidehoffer with Bryan Insurance Agency. We got the Doobie Brothers and the Beatles coming up here on your Pawn Industry 8 o'clock hour, so stick around.
Q 94.7.